Our first speaker for the day is a global award-winning designer and the founder of Future Factory, which is a widely respected design consultancy with a special focus on Asian markets. Multiple Red Dot Design Award winner, he has also won several of Japan's Good Design Awards, America's IDSA Design Award, and Italy's A Design Award, joining the ranks of the world's most widely acclaimed designers. He is here to talk about transforming customer experience through design thinking. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jashish Kambli onto the stage.
Thank you, Neil. This is generally the moment when technology lets you down, so let's see how that goes. Hello, everyone. Two things give me a lot of pleasure. One is actually being in a physical conference after so long. The last couple of times I've had to talk, I've been talking to a blank screen, and you really don't know whom you're talking to, right? So it's awesome to actually be in a place where you get to interact with people, and all of what we do is about people and user backward thinking. So being in a conference and meeting all of you and actually addressing you is it's awesome to be getting out of COVID. I don't think I need to put too much into, Neelu has already kind of introduced what we do, but when Vikram actually reached out to me, I'm pretty reclusive that way. Vikram reached out to someone in the company, and then he somehow managed to get hold of my number, and then he actually followed up, and he actually called me enough times that I actually answered the phone, and he got talking to me, and he told me what he was doing, right? What the summit was about, and I said, it's very interesting what you guys are up to, but why do you want me to actually talk here? Because this seems to be all about manufacturing, and design thinking is, yes, it's a buzzword, it's an interesting topic, but why do you need, it seems a little out of place in today's session. But actually what he said was, again, very interesting. He said, yes, this is all about manufacturing. Most of the people are stalwarts in manufacturing, head of plant, very, very senior people from manufacturing. But these are also the leaders of their business verticals and their industries tomorrow. Yeah. And it would be interesting obviously they already know everything there is to know about manufacturing. It would be much more interesting as a topic to start with something wide, right? And that's where I said, okay, maybe there's something I have to add. I've been in, I started off in 1996, and it's been 25 years of working in design. And over the last 25 years, we've had the opportunity and the honor to work with some fantastic companies, and more interestingly, some fantastic people. And we've learned a lot, and hopefully we've been able to add value back to some of the work that we've done for these companies and people. And that's given us a ringside view of how innovation and product development and new product development has changed over all these years. Yeah. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. But let's start, going by the fact that this is all about manufacturing, let's start with manufacturing. Yeah. So if you Google manufacturing today and you ask for images, you'd possibly get something like this, right? So it's all about robots, it's about automation, it's about Industry 4.0, it's about productivity and efficiency and all of these things that you guys must be dealing with on a daily basis, right? It's really cool. Germany leads, we follow, a lot of interesting things. But, I'm going to put the volume up on this so that I can. Yeah. But it's not new. Productivity Okay, efficiency is not new. It goes back to the start of the industrial age, right? So this is a 1936 movie. I think we all grew up on it. For once, I am talking to people who are my age, and I think a few of them are actually older than me. So it's awesome. So I'm sure we've all seen this. But this is how old productivity and efficiency is, right? It's changed over time. Earlier it started with steam power, it went into assembly lines, it went into a lot of other things, and finally it's now about silicon and automation and smart devices and sensors. So it's come a long way, but the story is old, right? What is also interesting is where we are today. So let me try this. Okay, this is, I don't know how many of you know about this. This is, I'm sure, again, a movie our time movie. This is Minority Report. How many of us have seen it? Tom Cruise, yeah. A lot of gesture recognition, moving screens around. And when we saw this for the first time, I think late 90s, maybe 90s, early 2000, it was so cool and so out there. And this is a rather clunky version of BMW's in-car gesture recognition. So whatever was out there then is actually happening today, has happened. And if I were to actually push the mandate a little further, we all know about Moore's law, mostly engineers here. So Moore's law talks about the fact that computing power is just going to double and triple. Every 18 months, computing power changes, right? So why is this picture there? Any guesses? Any idea why I've stuck this image in here of Neil Armstrong on the moon? This was, I don't know, sometime in the 70s? 69, 70. I wasn't born. I'm not that old. Yeah. So the entire computing power of the Apollo mission is what we get on a Nintendo Wii today. Yeah. On a PlayStation or a Nintendo. Yeah. The entire computing power that went into actually sending man to the moon is available on a game. Yeah. If I take out my phone, average phone, right? This was, I think, the computing power of a Cray mainframe in those days. Is now what I have on my phone. Yeah, so technology is just leapfrogged, right? We've gone really, really crazy. But it's interesting. So the point I'm trying to make is that technology is already 30, 40 years ahead of what we can make use of. Yeah. And the same thing is happening. So if we look at manufacturing or if we look at products, that's where we are today. Yeah. So if technology is not the future. So we had the opportunity to work with a really large, one of the 3 largest medtech companies in the world, and they were working on a project to enter China. And it was interesting to see how they really put a lot of effort into increasing the quality of the endoscopy cameras, and they were pushing that very hard. And it was interesting to see when we interviewed all these doctors, senior doctors who were making decisions for purchase in all these government hospitals in China, the heads of departments couldn't make out the difference between their technology and the increments that they had made, yeah, and what they were already using. So that's how, the differentiation that we can cause with technology has actually come down, because technology is almost level now, right? So if that's what's happening to technology, what is the next step for companies to actually innovate, right? What do you do? Yeah. In my mind, the next step is imagination. Yeah. And I think I was speaking to a very esteemed next speaker who's going to talk to you about creativity. I hope I'm not giving away your mojo, but yeah, I think the next step is imagination. And by imagination, I don't mean we all have to become artists. I don't mean we have to become playwrights. Imagination is being able to actually use technology that benefits humanity more, right? So it's not about progressing technology, but about finding imaginative ways to bring technology and transform human life through that intervention. Yeah. So this is what we believe at Future Factory, that there was a time for technology forward. A lot of advancement happened because of moving technology front. Yeah. And it's going to continue to happen, but it's kind of the law of diminishing returns right now, right? You do more, it's going to get harder to do, and it's going to get you less, right? What I think is really going to be very powerful in the decade to come is user backward. Yeah, we've already seen some great examples of user backward thinking. There are enough companies that have sprung up from nowhere. If you take Nest, or you take Airbnb, or you take Apple, of course, you can't stay away. Polo neck and all that, so I can't stay away from Apple. But if you look at all that, user backward thinking is actually going to become more and more powerful, right, over the next decade, until maybe something else comes about. Right? So this is Apple, but this is Steve Jobs in 1997. Bear with me, have the patience, because no one says it better than him. I'm going to play the video. Yeah.
You know, you can please some of the people some of the time, but one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that?
I think this really puts, user backward understanding in perspective, right? So if you look at everything that Apple has done over the last 20 years, and I'm sure you guys have heard everyone who speaks talks about Apple. I'm going to say a little more about it because it's so fascinating. If you look at what Apple has done, despite the fact that they're, I don't know how many $1 trillion of a company today, largest company in the world, most valuable company in the world, if I look back, they really aren't known for inventing any new piece of technology. They are known for repurposing technology, right, and making it consumer facing, user facing, right? So if you take iTunes, what is brilliant about iTunes? Okay, a lot of people talk about it as a platform, and they change it from a device to a platform, and there's a whole lot of stuff behind iTunes. But actually the user insight behind iTunes is so simple, right? People before iTunes used to buy albums. And any of us listening to music, which we did sometime in our lives, we know that we don't buy albums, we buy songs, right? We buy an album, but we listen to 2 or 3 songs. The whole music industry before that was all about pushing an album. The label would kind of, they would get singers to make an album, then they would build it into a CD or earlier days cassettes or LPs, and then they would send them out. But we want to listen to one song as users. And that's what iTunes did. That's how close they are to understanding what customers think, and that's how they've used. And then there is this whole bit of engineering and technology which they use to bring that user insight and make it so meaningful to the final audience that they want to talk to, right? So and this is what I think is going to be the next big thing, right? Whether you're in manufacturing or you're in marketing or you're in design or you're in any other field, I think reimagining the use of technology, being user inspired, is a big thing, right? I'm going to actually talk you through 3 stories that challenge this or bring this to the fore. Yeah. So the first one is about fashion. Yeah. There's a great saying from Henry Ford. If I'd asked the user what he wanted, he would have said a faster horse. I think it goes something like, it's not exactly, but that's what he wants, right? So it's not good enough. You have to have empathy for your customers, but it's not good enough to just ask them what they want and then go and build that, because that's not their job, it's yours. Yeah? So if you look at fashion industries, yeah, from the till let's say the 90s, yeah, fashion was ruled by the big brands, right? Haute couture, extremely exclusive. Paris ramp walks, meant for only those few people who could afford it, and then they would trickle down. Yeah, so very expensive, very niche, small market, and kind of self-defeating in its own way. Yeah. Enter Zara, right? And Zara really had their ear to the ground. Right? What did they do? Yeah. They realized that people don't want to buy something which is worth $10,000, at least not mass, consumers. They can't afford it, and even if they do, if you go and actually buy an Armani suit, you're expecting to wear it over life, which is not the way humans live, right? I mean, we put on weight, fashion changes, trends change. Why would I put money into a $10,000 Armani suit? So Zara actually just, it's a simple thing. It's very, this is common sense. Yeah, but what did Zara do with it? Right? They didn't reinvent fashion. They didn't come out with haute couture. They didn't do something crazy in terms of what you wear. It's just well-made shirts, well-made trousers. But they actually used this insight to transform their supply chain and brought just in time as a principle to fashion which was never there before. Right? So now you have fashion that stays on the shelf shorter. Okay, people wear it, it's cheap enough, people wear it for just the amount of time that it stays trendy. They want to get rid of it because they want to look different in a few years or a few months. Okay, and it's gone on to become this, I mean, fast fashion is what we all buy today, right? Whether it's Zara or it's Mango or it's something else, it's the way the fashion industry has actually stayed relevant, because the Louis Vuittons of the world are not that relevant. But like most things, okay, this is a climate summit. I know you guys are being awarded for sustainability in business, but it's another cool word right now. And like everything else, right? Fast fashion has led to consumerism. Consumerism has led to landfills and people throwing out stuff much more than they would have in the past, and it's got a bad name for fashion like it has for many other industries. And it's become a vicious circle, right? So user backward thinking, very good for Zara, and now we are in trouble again, right? So we need to reinvent what is happening. Interestingly, so we at Future Factory, we have a program with one of the very large universities in Sweden. Sweden, as you know, is like really on top of everything when it comes to sustainability and being green. So we were there on an exchange program taking some master classes, and the faculty had, on a free day, they said, you need to visit this one place in Sweden on the outskirts of Eskilstuna, which is called Retuna. We were like, okay, what does it do? So it's basically a recycling plant for fashion. Yeah, and if you were to try and answer this question, how might we design for responsible behavior, non-disposal, and yet keep it cool and trendy? Okay, Retuna does that, right? So it's large scale. It's truly recycling. It's not taking cloth, making it back into fiber, It's just taking your old clothes, which are pretty new, okay, and passing them through a system so that you don't mind going and buying it again, right? How many of us would buy a second-hand towel, second-hand bed sheet? Any takers? Would you buy a second-hand towel? No, but that's what we do, right? When we go and we stay in a hotel, they're not first-hand towels. We're using towels that have been used by 50 people. So it's actually, as consumers, as users, we are really not too worried about the second-hand. It's about the way the second-hand is presented to us. In India, it's Jari Purana, right? So it's that word, the connotation of it being second-hand. But today, recycling is cool, right? So what have these guys done? Right? So this is their shop floor. It's basically a large recycling dump where people can come and give away everything that they don't want, and they do it by the kilo, right? I mean, they drive up in their large SUVs packed with stuff, and they just dump it into these large dumpsters, and they drive off from there. And then three things happen, right? So there's a collection, there's sorting, and there's some bit of upcycling that happens. They clean things up, maybe remove a few stains, take out, stitch something that may be torn if it's plates or glasses. But this is not where, I spoke about imagination. This is very logic, right? Now, what is amazing about Retuna, and you've got to be there to actually experience Retuna. They sell it with style. Right? When it comes into the store, the way it is displayed, what you actually go in to buy, it's like buying something between an antique and brand new stuff, right? And you suddenly do not mind paying for it, and you suddenly do not mind using it, and you suddenly do not mind wearing these things, right? It's suddenly taken the bad stuff out of second hand and made it very cool, right? I'm sure all of you have traveled, and all of you are aware of the Salvation Army, right? I have walked into many Salvation Army stores across the world trying to buy something, right? Because the whole concept of it is cool, and then they have some cool stuff at dirt cheap rates. But I've never been able to pick anything up at Salvation Army, right? But at Retuna, I went crazy. The only problem, I couldn't buy too much, is I had to ship it back from Sweden, which was not possible. So I landed up with a few things. They were selling plates, used cutlery. Now, fantastic cutlery, you can't even make out it's used. Instead of 6 plates, they have 5. How does it matter to me, right? Instead of a tea set with, they don't have the milk jug for, but it's out there. It's at 30%. It's from a great brand. It's possibly something that you won't find ever again. So this is where imagination comes in, right? The way they sell it is imagination, right? The rest of it is, that's what the store looks like. It's a massive mall. People come from all over the world to see this. Now, I'm not saying fast fashion is going to suddenly become Retunas of the world, right? There is space for the Zaras and the Mangoes, and there is space for this. But coming back to basic insight of user understanding, right? This is based on user understanding. The fact that they've managed to put their finger on what is bad about secondhand and take it out allows Retuna to actually be so successful. Ganpati is going on now. I don't know how many of you are from Mumbai, but Mumbai, Maharashtra, Ganpati is a massive thing. We clog the roads. We play music till very late in the evening. The worst of it is we take all the flowers and everything and we dump it in the sea. Now I've grown up in Mumbai, and I've seen this happen over and over and over again. When we went for Visarjan, we would do the same thing. And about 8 or 10 years ago, I don't know who, some engineer in the BMC maybe, had this wonderful little foresight, right, or insight. I would really like to know who did it, because it's so brilliant, right? So they started putting these big kalashes on the beach. You know what a kalash is? So they made these huge 6-foot kalashes. These are, and basically what they say is, you take all your flowers and leaves and everything else, and instead of putting it in the sea, you put it in this kalash, right? Now, all of us as people who would actually go to the beach to do Visarjan, we didn't want to throw our stuff in the sea. But as Hindus, you can't throw it in garbage. It's not acceptable. Religion doesn't allow it, right? So saying put it in the kalash and we'll take it and incinerate it for you is a fantastic solution. It's completely based on user behavior. It's taking my sentiments into account and building a solution that is so simple that actually allows it to work, right? That's what Retuna has done. And there are enough examples of this happening around. Yeah. Okay. This is my second story. And do we have, are we running late on time? Okay. So often we've put products out there, all part of corporate manufacturing, R&D, product development. We've put products out there. We've got all the features in. We've stuffed features into the product. We've got price down. We've done all of that, and it goes out there and fails, right? And we are left scratching our head as to why the hell did this happen? This product was supposed to rocket off the shelves, and no one's picking it up, right? So this is a case. This is something we did at Future Factory. Very interesting. We worked with the home security division at Godrej. I don't know how many of you know that Godrej is one of the 10 companies, the only one of 10 companies in India to make it through the last century. The only 10 companies that started in the 1800s. Godrej, I think it was 1896, and made it through 1900s into the 2000s, right? And Godrej started off with a home safe. I don't think it was a home safe in those days, but it must have been some munim or something, or some merchant who used to buy these safes. That was their first product, right? And when we started engaging with them in 2005 or 2007, 110 years after first introducing home safes, right, there was yet sub 2% penetration. Now you talk to users in India, they don't think India is a very safe society. We're all used to petty theft, burglary, this, that, and everything. Why is there so little relevance for the whole category of home safes, right? Godrej has 75%, but penetration is 2%. So again, I don't know how many of you have heard of Theodore Levitt, who is one of the Philip Kotler kind of gang marketing guru. Yeah. So very interestingly, he's asking the question in a different way, right? He's saying people don't want to buy a drill machine. They're interested in the hole the drill makes, which is, we don't want a drill machine. We'd rather not have it if someone could just come and poke a hole into the wall when we wanted it, right? So if you start asking the question differently, and you actually start understanding what customers want, you realize very different things, right? So this is a question we asked ourselves, right? If you remember the ads from Godrej, very nifty ads Godrej Securities makes, right? So they had this one ad with people actually coming in with a blowtorch and trying to kind of open up the safe, and then he's giving up, and very funny, cool ads they used to make. But what was happening is they were pushing the spec of the home safe higher and higher and higher. Yeah? And it was actually becoming, they were trying to become the bank inside the house. Yeah? And when we did some research and we actually talked to a lot of people, we realized that that's not what people want, right? They don't want the bank, they don't want the responsibility of being a bank. That's why the bank is there, right? But they yet want security, they yet feel unsafe. You take out, everyday diamonds and you keep them on the washing, on the sink, right? And then they get stolen, right? They yet worth 10,000 rupees. So how do you actually prevent for that? And this is where the imagination came in, right? So we're a design company, but the imagination wasn't the product. The imagination was this graph. So we live in in the age of passwords, right? 3 or 4 days ago, once again, I was with American Express. I had forgotten my password. I'd forgotten my my username, everything, because obviously, how many of these can you keep track of, right? Either you write them down in a notebook, and you keep that notebook in your pocket, and then you. So how many people actually have a 16-digit alphanumeric password? Anyone? For your bank, 16-digit alphanumeric password. Wow. What is your name? Nitin. Wow. For what do you use it? So you've got trained. Okay. Yeah. But yes, at least we have one. Okay. One person with a 16. You also? 16-digit? No. Okay. So at one end you have extreme security, 16-digit alphanumeric password, which no one can remember. At the other end, how many of us actually have a hash of our name and our birth date as most of our passwords? I'll put both my hands up, right? Most of us. So we are compromising for security all the time against convenience, right? So we are picking convenience against security. And in our minds, we kind of draw a middle path. Yeah, there will always be Nitin, right, who is 16-digit alphanumeric, and there'll be someone like me whose name and birthday. Yeah, and I'm okay with that, right? And the problem with Amex is I'd used up all the options I had of my name and birthday, this, surname first, and they kept saying, now you've used this, you can't use it again, you've used this, you can't use it again. And that's where I was stuck on the phone with them. But this is where imagination came in. Yeah, the answer to this, again, very cool. Yeah, it's a very simple product. It's not meant to replace the bank. It's meant to keep everyday jewels and valuables safe. Little bit of money, your wallet, right? It's called Goldilocks. Right? The guy who came up with the name is a colleague of mine. He's sitting around somewhere. His name is Suraj. We were brainstorming, and and he told, and he was like, in my home, we have 3 drawers in the hall, and we open one drawer is mine, one is my father's, one is my mother's, and we said this is like Goldilocks, Papa Bear, Mama Bear, Baby Bear, right? So that's where the name came out. And actually, this product is called Goldilocks, but it's as simple as that, right? You keep your stuff in a convenient space. This is meant to make that space safe, right? Technology, because there's no lock, there's no key, there's no, it's electronic, it has built-in. So there are versions of this with facial recognition, with alarms, with geofence fencing, all of that, right? So it's technology, but it's eventually just making it easy for you to keep your stuff safe, right? I'm going to play this ad because it's just too cool. This is the Goldilocks ad.
माझं बोलणं आता देतो हिमतीचा डोस भटकू नको इकडे तिकडे गॅर बदल पुढे निघ बदला कुणीतरी तुझे जुनाचं शिल्पकार रंग जग तू बदलू शकतो वाशी मारू नको हार पाऊल टोकर वाढले काळजाचे डोके लावून करताचा हिशोब मित्रा फिरेल तुझे डोके स्वतःचा शोध घे तू चुकीतून बोध घे तू वेळाला भेटत सगळं फक्त थोडी हिंमत ठेव तू कार्य चुकला तुटला तू कार्य तकला हारला नको हार मारू मित्र जरी आला कोणता कचरा विचार करतोस ना
I love my sister, but I also love my car. इसलिए I need to keep my car keys safe. In this,
What will you keep inside? Goldilocks, your personal locker from Godrej Security Solutions.
So, what is really interesting, so you can't make out this is a safe ad or a security ad right till the end, right? I mean, it just changed the context, it changed the narrative. What is very interesting, I've seen people at Chroma. I mean, having worked on the category, I don't have a home safe, but I have 3 Goldilocks. Right? It's that kind of a product. It's ubiquitous. Yeah. You see people in Chroma actually coming in and buying 4 or 5 of them. Instead of buying one safe, which would go into the Almira, they're buying 3 or 4 of them, one for the kid, one. You actually get to see them using it the way it was, we thought it would be used, and it's very, very rewarding to actually see that happen. Yeah. So that's the second one. And the third one, so I talked about technology actually reaching way beyond its usability. Yeah, it's gone so far ahead of what we can make sense of. Yeah. And I'm going to play you another video clip from an animation film out of 2000. I don't know if you've heard of it. I saw it because of my son back then. Yeah. I don't know. Anyone seen Jimmy Neutron?
It's all right, I'll handle this. Hello! What galaxy are you from? Oobla, where is your leader? Oobla, stop it. It's Toast. Oh. Hello, Toast!
Okay. It's a really, really funny movie from 2001. Yeah. But the point here is we take technology for granted because we're used to some parts of it. People who are not used to technology, for them, it can be as far removed as this, right? This is a wrong image. But we had the opportunity to work out with a really, really cutting edge bunch of people working out of Berkeley. It's a lab that actually works on what they call the 50 breakthroughs that they think are going to save the world. One of them is solar powered electricity, taking electricity via mini grids to electricity dark areas. And we did a lot of interesting work with them in Bihar and UP. Yeah. So now, there's some of you in the power industry or associated with the power industry. If you look at, there's nothing wrong about solar mini grids, right? Sustainable, everything great. The problem is not even electricity is alien. The fact is, you're taking this to a bunch of people, to a community that has never had electricity, doesn't have the appliances to use electricity, right? So you're creating supply where there is no demand, there is no affordability to generate that demand, okay? And that's a completely new problem to have, right? One that actually honestly doesn't have a solution. I don't know what we're going to do. So we're going on building these solar mini grids all over the country, and it's a great thing. It is actually fantastic. But think of this as both a problem and an opportunity. What are we trying to do here? Are we trying to get rural communities to aspire to the same hellhole kind of urban situations that we have created for ourselves with with the kind of devices we have? Would we want to sell refrigerators to rural communities when they actually have access to fresh food? Or do you actually want to find a better use for power that is now available to them? More relevant use for power that is now available to them, right? These are, I think, questions that we need to ponder. right? There's no easy answer, but we have a massive opportunity here to actually change the way rural communities, who have never or who have had kind of iffy kind of relationship with power, to see power in a new light and actually overcome some of the faux pas that we have created getting to where we are today. Right? So this is a fantastic opportunity. I don't know how many companies are actually thinking of it that way. They're yet thinking, oh, we'll generate power and we'll give them appliances and they will use the power and we'll make money. But this is a chance to really do good, yeah, in places that are, it's like virgin territory. Yeah? We need to rethink some of these things. Yeah. This slide comes in just because it looks so fantastic. This is my last slide, guys. Going back to what Vikram said and what Anand said, you guys are going to be the future of your industries and your companies, and you're going to have a lot of power to do and change things. Yeah? And with that power, I believe, comes a lot of responsibility, right, to act in a certain way. And when I say, I would urge you guys, when you get there, some of you are already there, over the next few years of your careers, to actually push your boundaries and take that extra 2 steps, be a little more daring, yeah, and get to a point where you think you're doing things that will leave the world. Imagine the world as a place that you would like to leave for your children and your grandchildren. Today it is not, right? And that is a fact of the matter. And when you guys step into that, into those shoes, if you're not already there, it would be really nice to push the boundary towards something like that, right? So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and yeah, okay.
If anybody has any questions, we have time for a couple of questions. We would send the mic across to you. Please put up your hand. Seems like you had an unquestionable address.
Yeah.
Well, thank you then. Are you sure you have no questions?
Yeah.
I'm sure he can come up with a lot more, design a few more thought processes for you.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm here. We can.
Yes.
What's the next design aspect of view in the next after 25 years?
Sorry?
What is the next development of the design's respective view of that after 25 years?
What is the next thing in design after 2025?
Yes.
Or 25 years?
Yes.
25 years, I don't have the vision to see, but I can tell you what we are grappling with, right? As designers, so there's a lot to do with user experience. Today, let me give you an example. User experience is a hackneyed word, especially because it's become a strain of design, which is essentially attributed to websites and apps. But user experience is not websites and apps. Take the case of an ambulance, for example. Yeah. So, what is the experience of an ambulance? What do you think the experience of the ambulance is?
Yeah, call the guy and take the ambulance.
So it's very well made, right? It's a steel box with all ergonomically well designed. You can push a gurney into it, you can push a stretcher into it, it folds up, and you have all your defibrillators and this and that in the right space. It's very efficient. But where's the experience? I'm a patient, with a heart condition, racing towards a hospital, right? And well, I'm in this stainless steel box with a siren blaring, okay, stuck in traffic. Okay, how is it giving me comfort? What do I need at that point? As a user of an ambulance, I need to be, I need someone to tell me things are going to be okay. What in this whole experience of driving me to the hospital makes it okay? So if you look at user experience and you stretch that, you stretch the gambit of it, right? I feel that we have just about touched the surface of user experience. It's very app, it's very digital, But you take it into physical products, there's a lot to be done, right? So that I think is something that needs to be worked on.
Thanks. I think it's quite impressive presentation that you have made, and you also touched upon sustainability sort of as one of the themes in your presentation, as I could see. So I would be interested in knowing if hard to abate sectors like steel, cement, that kind of industries, are there any work done by Future Foundry? If yes, if you can share some of the examples, because they are really hard to abate sectors. There is a core technology of manufacturing steel, cement. So whether design thinking has given some new insights.
So we have engaged with cement in the past. We've engaged with mining in the past. Steel we've just been users of. But I'm sure if you put your mind to it, you will find ways to do it. So, for example, with cement, long back there was this brief that we worked on, which was about wastage of cement because of handling. Right? Now, sustainability doesn't mean removing cement. Until we find an alternative, you can't do away with cement, right? But there's a lot of wastage, and that wastage actually contributes to more mining and more inefficiency and more everything, right? Harm to the planet. So, and it's in some cases because of the way they actually handle, you have that crowbar that they stick in and they pull, all your gunny sacks have got a hole. It's 7 or 8% actually in terms of wastage. It's massive. So working on a system that actually just stops that wastage is interesting, right? Similar things we did in mining, where it was not so much about mining itself or making, but the conveyor belts that are used, the high-speed conveyor belts that are used to actually take ore out of large mines, right? There's a lot of drop-off, and the systems need to be self-aligning. So a bit of Industry 4.0 thinking there, right? How you could actually get these systems to become less, reduce spillage. There are lots of interesting things you can do. I don't know whether sustainability and consumer or user backward thinking can come in, but I'm sure it can. I think we haven't had the opportunity to think or work on it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Just one last slide. This is a very interesting report that we come out with every year. It's called Shape of the Future. It's done by, sorry, it's gone off, but it's okay. It's we're already playing. I can start talking about your presentation now. But if it's a very interesting trend report. Yeah, it's called Shape of the Future. We release it every year with CII. In case anyone is interested in this, if someone, I'll leave a piece of paper out there. If you can put your name in, and your email ID, will mail you. It's all about user trends and some very, very interesting trends which are not common. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. It's been fantastic, and I look forward to hearing the next speaker.